This is the Aegis Vanguard Warden. Her pedigree begins at the very beginning of Star Citizen, drawing inspiration from the American P-38 of World War II, something you can clearly see in her lines. The Warden takes on more than just stylistic cues from the P-38 in design. You can clearly see the twin engines flanking a supported independent fuselage and twin tail, but the ship also assumes her role as a heavy fighter and escort, with incredible long legs compared to other fighters. In fact, this ship currently enjoys a quantum fuel capacity equivalent to a Cutlass Black at 2500 QF. This gives it the ability to escort bomber formations or other battle fleets deep into enemy space, or be the vanguard of the fleet and arrive at the destination ahead of the main force. The Warden might draw its airframe from the P-38, but her combat feel and loadout is definitely more at home on the American A-10, prominently featuring under her nose a gimbaled size 5 APOC Revenant ballistic Gatling gun. This beast of a cannon is backed up by 4 fixed size 2 bearing M4A lasers. For added punch, the ship boasts an impressive missile array of 8 bearing MSD-442 Marsdens, 4 in the Ignite 2 model, and 4 in the Dominator EM model. For larger prey, 4 MSD-423 size 3 Arrestor 3s are also slung on the wings. What the Warden lacks in maneuvering compared to her lighter and smaller peers, she gains back in capability from her turret position. Armed with 2 size 2 SW-16BR2 Sawbuck ballistic repeaters, the turret is manned by the second crew member and features great firing arcs. The Vanguard is deceptive when it comes to size. Even when examining the ship, one gets the feeling it's much smaller than it really is. It looks and feels like a fighter, a light fighter. But in reality, it's the same size as a Cutlass Black. You almost need to be parked next to a single-seater like this Saber to truly appreciate how big this ship really is. And then the turret makes sense. This ship really isn't the best dogfighter, and does best when it can jump its prey in an ambush. This ship relies on shock and heavy hits to win. And that's the trade-off for its exceptional long legs. Fitted with 2 medium fuel intakes which feed 2 medium fuel tanks, this ship can afterburn extensively without running low on hydrogen fuel, like her smaller single-seat peers, making this ship ideal for taking and holding forward battle positions until the relief arrives. It is this remote operability that brings the ship's other unique features out, the life support pod. While most ships feature coffin-like enclosures for short-duration escape, the Warden features a full life support pod that bunks 2, has facilities one might need to last a few days until rescue. This system also lends itself to surprising modularity. As the Warden was one of the first concept ships CIG developed, you can see the earlier multi-role single-platform ideas that we no longer see in ships made today. The Battlefield Upgrade Kits, or BUCs, which allow the Warden to take on 2 of her sister variants without extensive hangar facilities, make this ship unique. Removing the life pod and replacing it with either a heavy computing suite for electronic warfare or a similar module with torpedo bay dramatically changes the combat roles of a single squadron of Vanguards on the fly. And this is what has prompted a rework of the whole line by CIG. 3 of the 4 Vanguard variants utilize the same airframe, while the 4th, the Hoplite, which is a dropship, requires a wider fuselage. Going forward, CIG has decided to rework the series so all have the same wider hull, making all 4 fully modular. Currently, only the Warden and Hoplite are flight ready, and I don't really think the change has to do with the Hoplite not being able to be converted over. Again, this was an earlier concept ship, and as time has passed, the roles of subcomponents have become more fleshed out. As a result, I think that the Sentinel electronic warfare variant needs more space for the subcomponents to be installed. Likewise, the Harbinger bomber model only carries 3 torpedoes, now matched by a stealthier single-seated Eclipse bomber. A wider hull means more torpedoes, returning the balance that a multi-crew ship gets more capability than a single-seat light bomber that can reach the target easier. Just like the size is deceptive from the outside, those on the inside of the Warden will find the interior surprisingly spacious. If anything, the hoplite makes the best use of the surprisingly large interior space of the Vanguard. The modular nature of the ship leaves a lot of underutilized space on the ship, namely in the neck of the ship leading to the cockpit and the rear ramp space. This extra space is utilized to add secondary components to all the major systems, further enhancing the Warden's ability to operate well ahead of the logistical body of the fleet, despite taking minimal battle damage. Now, there are complaints about the size of the interior being too small, ironic for a fighter. For example, when the turret seat is down for the crewman to enter the turret, the other crewman cannot pass as the aisle is completely closed off. I don't really see the issue, since the pilot should have no need to traverse across the ship when the turret assembly is dropped for loading. However, CIG has said the rework will resolve this, as the hull will be wider. Despite being years old, the interior is fantastically detailed, and the lighting in both power states is remarkable, though currently there is no decent damaged state. Admittedly, the fancy clear door to the lavatory is out of place, especially on a 2-person ship, and the doors of the bunks are features missing from larger, more crude ships where the noise and privacy concerns would be a bigger issue. The ship has a larger kitchenette than a Freelancer or even a Constellation. After a walk through the component-packed hallway from the life pod, one arrives at one of the best spaces on the ship, the cockpit. The viewing angles are more than ideal. Though a second seat to something like an Avenger, the controls are very well laid out and the screen's well placed. The Halosphere radar display is excellent for fighting, something that's surprisingly missing from, say, the Avenger. In fact, where the Avenger's instrument panel falls flat, figuratively and literally, the Vanguard feels modern and appropriate. At the end of the day, the Warden is great at what it was designed to do: arrive at the tip of the spear leading the battle formation into action. With amazing range, speed, hitting power, and endurance, the ship is a formidable opponent in a battle formation. The ship isn't an ideal one-on-one dogfighter, especially against smaller, more nimble opponents, but unlike them, Warden crews won't mind prolonged patrols and time spent in forward battle areas with the living space aboard. The final question, of course, should you buy one? Admittedly, this is one of my favorite ships. It captures the sort of military strike craft that a 2-man crew would live aboard, and the Buck upgrades make the ship versatile in many combat roles depending on the needs of the fleet. The ship is too big and sluggish for a true combat ace to want, but in the right hands this ship can kill anything its size or smaller, and in numbers as low as 2, anything larger. If you can get one, do.